He wanted to become an ophthalmologist, but fate decided otherwise. After his designated heir, Bashar, was killed in a car crash in 1994, Syrian leader al-Assad asked his second son to return home. Bashar al-Assad, not yet 30 years old, gave up his studies in London and returned to Damascus. Considered a shy intellectual, he found himself in the role of successor, although his father at the time ruled it out.
No, I'm not preparing my son to succeed me. He's never even spoken of it to me. Maybe people are saying it because he's politically active. I've heard that his friends like him and that the people of Syria respect him, but there is no article in the constitution or in our laws that allows for a relative's right to succession.
The regime then adapted that constitution to suit itself. Within hours of al-Assad's death in June 2000, the minimum age to become president was lowered from 40 to 34, the very age of his son Bashar. He stood for election that year unopposed. After 3 decades of dictatorship, hope was in the air. But Bashar al-Assad soon picked up his father's habits and went back to a severe autocratic regime, tolerating little dissent. His biggest test was yet to come. In March 2011, with uprisings sweeping the Arab world, his regime faced an unprecedented challenge to its grip on power. Fearing for its survival, the Assad family oversaw a brutal crackdown on protesters. As head of the powerful Republican Guard, Bashar's brother Maher ordered his troops to use violent tactics to suppress mostly peaceful crowds. Civilians the regime systematically described as terrorists. It drove what had been otherwise peaceful protesters into taking up arms, plunging Syria into civil war. Assad's regime sparked international outrage in 2013 when it used chemical weapons, a red line for the West, but there would be no intervention. That same year, the Islamic State group emerged from the remnants of al-Qaeda in Iraq. It was the beginning of a reign of terror that would stretch across entire parts of Syria, helped in part by the Syrian regime's decision to release terrorists from prisons. Assad was accused of facilitating the rise of the Islamic State group so he could paint the Syrian opposition as terrorists. Against the odds, he clung to power, and the tide finally turned his way in 2015. Both Iranian support and Russia's intervention on the regime's side were game changers. It allowed the Syrian regime to claw back territory. A pariah for the best part of a decade, the Arab League's decision to readmit Syria in May this year was a symbolic victory for Bashar al-Assad. It cemented his return to the Arab fold, despite his regime's role in killing hundreds of thousands of civilians.